Welcome, and almost Shabbat Shalom, and almost, well, happy Chanukah, because Chanukah lasts 8 days, so it's already Hanukkah. So we are so excited today to have our very own state representative, Dafna Michaelson Jenet. When I say our very own, I mean our very own community member. She represents her area in Commerce City, correct? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Is that right? Yes. But she does represent all of us as well as a member of the House of Representatives and as a Jew who's a member of the House of Representatives. But even more importantly, when I say our very own, she's a beloved member of Resides Shalom. She's a beloved member of our congregation. So I want to just introduce her. And then what I was thinking we would do tonight, last night we started with candlelighting, and then we moved from candlelighting into our discussion with our guest celebrity, our guest star. But I'm actually thinking that tonight maybe we'll start, because we don't actually have to light candles for a little bit. So what we'll do is we'll start with discussion with Dafna. We'll move into candlelighting for Hanukkah, followed by candlelighting for Shabbat, because once we've lit Shabbat candles, we can't light candles for Hanukkah. And then we'll sing a little bit of L'Chadodi. Dafna is going to lead us, a little bit of Kabbalah Shabbat, and we'll have a chance for anybody who's here who's saying Kaddish to say Mourner's Kaddish. So let me share with you a little bit about Dafna. So Dafna represents Commerce City in the Colorado House of Representatives. She is incredibly passionate about mental health and mental health care. And she is incredibly passionate about doing the right and the good and being a representative of the force of good here in Colorado. Before being a state representative, Representative Michaelson Jenet did a number of different things. And one of the really exciting things she did was she decided to visit all 50 states in 52 weeks. So I want to know what she was doing the 2 weeks that she was not visiting other states, and maybe she'll address that. And while she was in those states, she met interesting people, right? Ordinary, interesting people doing extraordinary things, and she wrote a book about it. So that was her first book. It's called It Takes a Little Crazy to Make a Difference, and that was published in 2015. And then in 2017, she published her second book called Peanut's Legacy, where she wrote about really a moment of deep vulnerability, about losing her pregnancy, losing the son that she was looking so forward to birthing at 20 weeks. And she really shares her own vulnerability in that story. In addition, Dafna is here with her family as well, who it will be great if she introduces us to them. And then we'll have a chance as well to share some questions and some thoughts as she engages us. So I'm going to turn it over to Dafna. The most important thing about Dafna, beyond her resume, which is actually more extensive than I've shared, and I was having trouble sort of pulling it up, unfortunately, on my phone, to get all the many good details. But at the end of the day, the most important thing about her is actually just that she is an incredibly good human being, an incredibly passionate human being. We get to watch her and sing along with her as she leads services here at Resides Shalom on many weeks. She's added such a voice of love and compassion and joy to our Resides Shalom community. We are so glad that she and her family are members. I'm going to add a few other interesting cool facts too, that the Conversation magazine named her 25 Women Changing the World, named her to that list. And she even had a mention in CNN's Intriguing Person column. So without further ado, I present to you our intriguing person for this evening, our star, Dafna Michaelson Jenet.
Hello, good night, Chag Sameach, everybody. I would like to introduce you to my amazing husband, Michael, wave, and my amazing daughter, Gabriella Liba. And we are here tonight. Well, I didn't use your whole name. I have a whole nickname for her. We can go over that later when she's not present.
But people call her Gavi, right?
Gavi, that's right. My daughter, Gavi, who is a student at CSU, who is now home through the middle of January, and we're so happy to have her here. When Rabbi Coburn asked me to talk a little bit, she said, I want you to talk a little bit about in your legislative work where the idea of being the light comes into play. And I had a different idea in mind. And then she was talking, as she was introducing me, I remembered an experience that I shared with some of you, but I would like to share with many of you. In my very first legislative session as a freshman legislator, so we're talking about 4 years ago now, there was a memorial service that was held on the floor of the Colorado House of Representatives. So when a former state representative or state senator dies, there is often a memorial that is held for them in the chamber by the current members of the legislature. And I wasn't prepared for what did that look like and what was that going to be about, but I was sitting in my seat and I had the smack dab middle seat in the section of where the Democrats sit on the floor of the House of Representatives. So I was stuck, basically. And all of a sudden, the chamber starts to fill. The person who we were memorializing had most recently been the president of Colorado Christian University. Now, I had just had a bill killed primarily by people who were testifying on behalf of Colorado Christian University. So I was already a little bit on edge, and it was one of my mental health bills. But, you know, I give everybody a chance. And I think many of you know the story that when I first joined the legislature, on the very first day of the legislative session, representative from Salida got up and invited everybody to Tuesday morning Bible study. And it was open to all and everybody was welcome. Well, I know that my values come from the Torah and all of the things that I have learned through Torah through my whole entire life. And I thought to myself, if I go to this Bible study, I'll be able to learn the value system of maybe people from the other side of the aisle who were the most present at this Bible study. So I started going to Bible study every Tuesday morning. And they were studying something called a 2 Timothy. I had never heard of a 2 Timothy before because guess what? It's not in the Torah. And I started on this long adventure of what they call, well, they call it the Bible, we call it the New Testament or something to that effect. So here we are back to this memorial. We're sitting on the floor. The house is packed. The entire gallery is packed with people. The sides, the benches on the sides are packed with people. And 2 representatives who participate in Bible study get up to lead the service. And all of a sudden, one legislator says, I'm going to do what, his name was Ken, I'm going to do what Ken would have done. And she starts to pound her fist on the dais and say, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And she invited the room to join her. And all of a sudden, all around me, a very loud, rousing chorus of Jesus, 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 over and over again. And I was sitting there and I was having a moment. You know, when I grew up, I was in BBYO. And a lot of times we'd like to play the game, are you a Jewish American or are you an American Jew? And really, there's a question there, and how do you represent yourself to the world? Well, when I was sitting there, my question was, am I a Jewish legislator or am I a legislator that just happens to be Jewish? And I sat there and I wrote my response. Because in that moment, all I could think was, we were not in church. That kind of a response would have been appropriate and welcome in church. But we were in the chamber of the Colorado House of Representatives, which represents all sorts of people from all different sides of life, from many different religions, from many different cultures, not just one. So I wanted to take a moment to reflect back to my colleagues that maybe they hadn't realized that we have a diverse population in this body. Because I think it's fair to say for many of my colleagues, there is this belief that everybody is Christian. And there was this moment where they were up there preaching Christianity from the well of the Colorado House of Representatives while the cameras were live. We were in a live session, and I felt very uncomfortable. So at that time, I had sent it to Rabbi Gerson and to Sue Gerson, and I had sent it to the ADL, and I had crossed my T's and dotted my I's. We had come back for a session. It was later in the legislative session, so we were coming back in the evening to finish up our work. And we come back to session, and I ask for a moment of personal privilege. When you take that moment of personal privilege, everybody stands up at their seat and are silent. And I said to them, because they always love when I read from the Torah, V'ahavta l'reach hakamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. And I talked about how uncomfortable it was for me and maybe for many other people when they started to chant Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Oh, and I forgot, they passed around baskets with pins that were about this big that said Jesus, 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 that the members were putting on their lapels. And how I, as a Jewish woman who represents the most diverse part of Aurora, who represents many people of different religious faiths and customs, would love in this chamber if we were recognizing and accepting of the fact that we are all different and many of us worship differently. And at the end of the day, I am your neighbor, I said, and please love your neighbor as yourself. Well, I set off a firestorm and a bunch of attack ads on me that said, meet Representative Michaelson Jenet. She doesn't feel comfortable hearing the name Jesus from the well. Call her and tell her what you think. But in that moment, I had a choice. I could have sat there quietly, or I could have stood up as a Jewish woman defending my right for separation of church and state, my right for recognition that we represent people of many diverse faiths, and that we have come to this legislature not to represent one people, but to represent humanity and Colorado as a whole. And so I hope that I brought light that day to the Colorado House of Representatives, and that hasn't happened again.
What amazing, profound story. Thank you so much for sharing. It's very weird when you're spotlighted on this because you get to look at yourself talking, which is sort of disconcerting. I would much rather be looking at you while I'm talking, Dafna. That was really, really beautiful. Thank you. We want to open this up to some questions. So if others have questions about what it means, I started by saying she represents Commerce City, but she represents all of us. And particularly she represents those of us who are Jewish, right? Like having somebody who is in this a state representative, and we have others as well, including Stephen Woodrow, who is also a member of our congregation. And so having representatives who are Jewish, right? That story is so indicative of why it is so important. It's such a wonderful example. I'm going to throw out a question to you, and then we'll see if there are questions that Daniel's getting, and he'll field the rest of them. So you're standing there by your amazing husband, Michael, who I know has been an incredible support for you. And it's really wonderful when we see courageous women who are leaders and who speak their mind and are strong, who have these incredible husbands who are able to just sort of support them in their fire. So thank you, Michael, for being a supportive spouse. I know that the two of you together built what the Journey Institute, is that right? Is that what it's called? And can you tell us a little bit about that? And how does that reflect sort of your values in this world and how you walk in the world?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So Michael and I started the Journey Institute really in 2008 when we were coming up with a plan for me to travel to all 50 states, one state each week for the 52 weeks of 2009, to find and share stories of ordinary people solving problems in their communities. So I would go and travel. Well, we had a whole plan. I had a business plan this thick, and then the economy collapsed. So we had to do it bare bones. Like, I don't really even have an answer to the question of how did we get it done. But we traveled to all 50 states, or I traveled to all 50 states, and then Michael would take the video and edit the video and put it up on our website. And we collected 500 stories of ordinary people who were solving problems in their community. And by the way, 65% of the people ended up being female, and a very, very large portion ended up being Jewish. And so that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But the Journey Institute has continued our work of sharing stories of ordinary people solving problems by curating TEDx events, which we've been doing for the last 10 years. We curate about 3 TEDx events a year at this point. And we just started Journey Institute Press, so we'll be publishing our own books at this point as well.
Amazing, amazing. So Daniel, are there other questions that you're looking at right now? Daniel is probably on mute.
I am. I was muted.
We'd think after 9 months we'd all get it together, right?
We're getting it. We're getting the rhythm. We've got 2 so far, so I'll go ahead and send you the first. What percentage would you say of American Jews are Democrat, Republican, Independent, if you have a sense of that?
That's a really good question, and a question that I was asked a lot during the legislative session. And quite frankly, for a very long time, the majority of the Jewish electorate was in the Democratic Party camp. But we've seen a larger and larger movement in the Orthodox community, where my family is from, towards the Republican camp. So in my household, actually, some of you were there when my brother Yechiel, who was a representative and state rep in Illinois, came in for the Clean Speech event, and they assumed that he was a Republican because he's a rabbi who wears a black hat, but he's a Democrat. So we had this great conversation and dialogue, but I believe, and you'll have to look this up, but the last time I researched it, still the majority of Jews are falling in the Democratic Party camp, but the Orthodox community is leading a path towards a Republican majority.
Thank you. Thanks for answering that. Next question we've got for you, and I'll just read this one off. I believe you had some bills killed because of COVID. Can you explain how to address mental health in the time of COVID and how to prioritize it versus other issues such as hunger and homelessness?
It's an excellent question. Yesterday, I found out that I was appointed chair of the Public and Behavioral Health Committee and Human Services Committee. And
Amazing. Can we just say mazel tov?
Thank you.
Really
so this is the first time in Colorado history that behavioral health is in the name of a committee. And that shows the commitment to the caucus, to the Democratic caucus, who has the majority, so we get to name the committees. It shows the commitment to behavioral health care. I just did a breakout session this morning with a number of members, and there are so many members who have behavioral health bills that they want to bring forward. But what's amazing is with 41 members, you have a diversity. So we have a lot of people bringing forward behavioral health bills, while representatives like Stephen Woodrow are working on housing justice and food justice. So we have a broad swath, and I believe we'll see a great number of behavioral health bills come through. Check out the behavioral health care blueprint that is on the governor's website. That will show how the committee that's been meeting for the last 2 years is looking at moving behavioral health forward in our community. And I had my really most important bill killed, House Bill 1086, which was annual mental health wellness exams, which I am bringing back, and I will pass this year if it's the last thing that I do.
Amazing. And you, as I have seen in the last year or so of knowing you, are a force of nature and a woman with deep wisdom. So I challenge anybody who's going to get in your way. That's all I have to say. Daniel, do you have other questions?
Yes, we've got just a couple more. This one's a little bit lighter. Do you have a favorite Hanukkah food or favorite challah topping?
Favorite Hanukkah food and challah topping? Well, Meredith Levy introduced me to everything bagel topping on challahs, and oh my God, that's the best thing in the whole wide world. And last night, Michael made us a huge batch of potato latkes that we ate directly out of the frying pan, topped with both sour cream and applesauce, not at the same time. And it was delicious. It was vegan. It was vegan sour cream. It was vegan sour cream. My daughter is very offended by the veganness of our sour cream.
Cranberry sauce.
And we had cranberry sauce because, you know, why not?
Very nice. Good deal. I mean, to each their own, and you enjoy what you enjoy. That's awesome. We've got one more for you, and then we'll keep moving. Got a question from a 9-year-old who would like to know a little more about what they do in the chamber when a representative dies. All right.
That's a really, really beautiful question. So when a representative dies, and actually we had Representative Kimmy Lewis passed away during the session a couple of years ago of cancer. And we have a memorialization where the members of the elected members of the body come up to the well and talk about that person and remember fond things about her. So Kimmy Lewis died of cancer. I was going through uterine cancer at the same time. And Kimmy and I would check in with each other all the time. And Kimmy was a far-right Republican, and you know who I am. And so we would communicate together with each other and see how each other was doing, because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. And I was honored to be able to go up there and say to her family that I had a strong relationship with this woman whose politics were very different than mine, but at the end of the day, we were both women with cancer.
Wow.
Wow, beautiful.
That's really beautiful.
I have a follow-up question to the 9-year-olds, because I'm imagining we have a number of kids on here. So when you think back to where you were when you were 9, did you imagine that you would be doing this, that you would be a state representative, and that you would be, really changing the world through one bill at a time? And if you didn't, what did you think you would be doing? And what would you tell kids about the dreams that they have and how to walk forward with those dreams and really make them a reality?
Well, when I was 9, I was really into Annie. And if you haven't watched Annie, you've got to watch Annie. And every time our family got together, I would put on a performance of Annie, and I would recruit all my cousins, and we would put on this whole performance, and my whole family would be held hostage watching this performance of Annie. And I was sure when I was 9 years old that I was going to be a singer and I was going to be an actress. And quite frankly, I followed that dream all the way through high school and college, where I studied music and musical theater. And now, when I got out of college, I wanted to work for the community, and I worked in nonprofit, and I worked in the Jewish community. And the legislative thing, I hadn't really thought about it. I hadn't really thought about it. I say really because when I was writing my college entrance essays, I wrote how I was an Israeli citizen who could still run for president of the United States, and how that was a thing that I could run for president of the United States because I'm a natural born citizen of the United States. And I only wrote that because I figured every college would accept me on the odd chance that I might become president one day. So that was my plan, and there you have it.
What do you think?
That's
What would you
amazing.
tell kids? This is the final, in 30 seconds, what would you tell kids about following their dream?
I think it's critical to follow your dream. I think having an acting education really helps me with public speaking. It helps me be able to have a presence in front of the community. Everything that I did in my background prepared me for this work today. So follow the things that you love, educate yourself about them, be really curious, and then follow the path. And I followed a path my whole life, and the path led me to the Colorado State Legislature, and maybe it will lead you there too.
And one final question, what are you most proud of when you look at your life? There's so much that you have accomplished. There's so much that you have done. What do you feel most proud of in this moment? Thinking about the light you've brought.
Well, I feel most proud of my daughter.
Right answer, Go Gabi.
I have a comedy education.
She has a comedy education, but now she's going to be an environmental scientist and save the world. I think what I feel most proud of is my life at times has been very down in the dumps, very hard. And I've suffered with depression, and I have been able to utilize those around me, like my husband, like my therapist, like my community, to help me find my North Star, to help me figure out what my direction is and how I can give back the most in my life. And I think what I would say to anybody is asking for help is the hardest thing that you can ever do and the most important thing that you can ever do. So if you are ever struggling, ask for help, because it feels really good on the other side.
Amazing. Okay, so we're going to let you lead us in lighting candles now. We have about 8 minutes to get the Hanukkah candles and the the Shabbat candles lit before sunset. And normally you're supposed to light Hanukkah candles after sunset, but of course you can't do that because it's Shabbat. So that's why we light them before. So we're gonna invite everyone to light their shamash, to light your helper candle, and then Dafna will sing the blessings, and then we'll light our candles. If you wanna take your shamash and kind of hold it up, you can do that, and then Dafna will lead us and sing along with her at home.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim l'avoteinu b'yamim hahem b'zman hazeh ma'osor Yeshuati lechana l'shabeach tikon beit tefilati b'sham toda nizabeach li'etachin mabeach mitzor hanabeach az egmor v'shir mizmor Chanukah tamizbeach az egmor v'shir mizmor Chanukah tamizbeach.
Beautiful.
Are we ready for Shabbos?
Yeah, now we're ready to light the Shabbat candles and to bring Shabbos in. Exactly. So if we want to light our candles, if you want to light your candles at home, and then Dafna will again lead us in the blessing.
All right, ready? Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. So I just want to just say that it's really awesome to have somebody who is leading us in politics and leading us in government, who can so easily recite Hebrew and can so easily recite our prayers and can so comfortably be a leader in the Jewish community as well. Doesn't happen so often, that there's just equal comfort in both worlds. We're really lucky, very, very lucky to have you as part of our Rodef Shalom community. And we're so, so lucky to have you as a representative here in Colorado. Thank you for all of your work, your holy work that brings more light into the world. So next, what we're gonna do is Dafna is gonna actually lead us in Lecha Dodi. We can bring in a little bit more of Shabbat, the Shabbos Queen, the Shabbos Bride, and we'll sing the following two Psalms as well. And then we'll have a chance for a mourner's Kaddish for anybody who is saying Kaddish this evening for a loved one. So if you are, so if you're in this Siddur, we're on page 21. What page are we on in your Siddur?
I'm on page 262 in the Siddur Sim Shalom.
Great. And so again, everyone's on mute. So as long as you're on mute, you can just sing along.
Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Hishmianu el hamyuchad, Adonai echad, U'shemo echad, L'shemo tiferet v'litila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu b'necha, ki hamkor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshavah tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Mikdash melech ir melucha, kumitzi mitocha hafecha, rav lo shevet Emek habacha vehu yachamo alayechem la. Lecha Dodi likra kala. Pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likra kala. Pene Shabbat nekabela. Hignareri me'achakumi. Leave she be de tiferet techami. Al yad ben ishai beit halachmi. Karva el nafshi ge'ala. Lecha Dodi likra kala. Pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likra kala. Pene Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, Kiba orech, Kumi uri, Shir daberi, Kevod Adonai alayech nigla. Lecha Dodi likra kala. Pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likra kala. Pene Shabbat nekabela. Lo tevshi velo tifalmi, matish tokaki umatami, bach yachasu ani, venivita ir altila. Lecha Dodi likra kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likra kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. V'hayulim sisaso saif, v'rachaku kol mablaif, yasis alayich Elohayich, kimsos chatan al kala. Lecha Dodi likra kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likra kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Yaminu small tifrotzi, v'yet Adonai taritzi, al yadish ben partzi, v'nishmakan v'nagila. Lecha Dodi likra kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likra kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Boi b'shalom ateret bala, Gam b'simcha u'b'tzahala, tov amuna am segula, boi kala. Lecha Dodi likra kala, pene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likra kala, pene Shabbat nekabela.
Mizmor, shir le'om hashabbat. Mizmor, shir le'om hashabbat. Mizmor, shir le'om hashabbat. Mizmor, shir le'om hashabbat. Magadu ma'asacha Adonai, ma'odam k'maklotecha, Tzadikata ma'ifrach, keres b'avanon yizkeh, shetulim bebeit Adonai, bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu. Od yenuvun seba, tishenim verananim yehu lahagid, ki asher Adonai tzuri velo avlatavo. Adonai malak tega'u lavish Adonai osita zar avtikon tevel baltimod. Edotecha nemnu meod HaKodesh. Adonai leorech yamim. Adonai leorech yamim. Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 24, and I'll just ask that Daniel, is it possible for you to make it so that anybody can unmute themselves? And we'll just ask for those who are saying Kaddish, if you would like to unmute yourself now, so that you can be heard.
You gotta be quiet.
We love Caleb's voice. Hey Caleb. Who am I, Caleb? Not getting
my mother.
Hi. It's very cute. Anyway, Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 24. Would anybody like to share a name of a loved one that they're remembering this evening?
Yeah, my mother Edith Proskoff, my grandfather Maurice B. Reese, and my uncle Samuel Proskoff, all in the coming week.
May their memories be a blessing. Mourner's Kaddish. Yit gadal v'yit gadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach hirtei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayachon u'v'yomachon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'gala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'olam omei omaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yibar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shmei d'kudusha barichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata Tush b'chata v'nechamata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. I also want to just announce to our community the passing of Rabbi Bobby Rosenberg, brother. The funeral arrangements have not been set yet, nor have Shiva, but we will let you know as soon as we have that information. May his memory be a blessing as well. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's really just really good to be together in this way. And I just want to invite Dafna, if you have any words of wisdom to send us out with as we move into Hanukkah this evening and our Shabbat celebrations at home.
Yes. Let that light of this beautiful menorah and of these Shabbos candles shine through you and help you through the dark times. We all need light right now, so let's enjoy the light we have.
Amen. Amen. So we will reconvene tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning. Please join us. We have some very special guests. Rabbi Jacob Blumenthal, who is the executive director, the CEO of, not the executive director, the CEO of Rabbinical Assembly and the United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism. He'll be speaking, as well as Ned Gladstein, who is the president, and our very own Marty Zimmerman, who has just taken a position on the executive committee of the USCJ. So it's going to be a special United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism Shabbat. We will have guests on our live stream, both on our website and probably on Facebook as well, who are from the entire board of USCJ has decided that Rodef Shalom is the place that they are having their Shabbaton this quarter. They're going to do 4 Shabbatonim during the year, and we are blessed with having them join us for this Shabbat virtually. We're going to get to hear some really wonderful words from Marty, I know, as well as the others. And we'll have our kids come on to try to virtually show the Bima steps. We've done that before, and it's a nice little way to close off our service by seeing the joy in our children of our community as well. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And then I just want to, another reminder, these programs are going to be going on throughout the week. But Saturday night, really important one is that we have Havdalah, candlelighting, and then some words from Rachel Birnbaum, who is an author, and then an awesome rockin' concert with David Ross. So I suggest signing up right away for that. It's going to be really great. If you have this link, I think it will work. Is that right, Daniel Sarche? If you have the link for tonight, will it work for tomorrow?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Let me know if you have any trouble tomorrow, and I will be on that. But as far as I know, this same registration link should work just fine for the entire rest of the week.
But the concert is going to be super fabulous tomorrow night. Really a way for us to just listen to David. I know, you know as well as I do that he creates beautiful music, but also a way to just sing along in your own home and have some festivities for Hanukkah. So, Chag Sameach, Shabbat Shalom. See you all soon.